Coming to you live from the Business Radio X studio, it's Franchise Marketing Radio, brought to you by IDS, an award-winning digital marketing agency that delivers integrated marketing solutions for franchisors, franchisees, and franchise development teams. Learn why over 75 brands depend on IDS's team of dedicated marketers and client service professionals to deliver a strong ROI on their marketing investment. Go to idsfranchisemarketing.com for a complimentary digital audit and consultation.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Franchise Marketing Radio. I'm your host, Rob Ganley, and it's always good to be back in the studio and having conversations. And today is a good day. I love talking to C-suite marketers, and it's great to talk strategy and get into the weeds if we choose. So it's always nice to have those kinds of conversations. So today we are lucky enough to have with us Jodi Boyce. She is the Chief Marketing Officer at Teriyaki Madness. And I certainly know that brand, but I'm sure you do too. Anyway, it's great to have you on the show today, Jodi.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You got it. You got it. All right. Well, listen, you're the Chief Marketing Officer, so we're going to talk marketing as we normally do on the show. But we have a variety of guests. So today, I know we can dive into a little bit about what you guys are doing. But why don't we start with your background in brand marketing and how you took what you do to Teriyaki Madness and their strategy, and tell me a little bit about how you've made some changes and what you're focused on going into the future on.
Sure. So I have been in restaurants and franchising for a little over 25 years. And I started my career actually right out of college working for Oscar Mayer. I was a hot dogger and I drove the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile around the country.
Right.
That's my only claim to fame. But it was great. And it taught me a ton about marketing and PR and promotions, and really launched my career into the food industry, just working with Kraft and Oscar Mayer. So when I decided to come back after traveling around the US, I landed in Denver, and I've been with restaurants and franchises ever since doing marketing.
Yeah. So, now you're with a brand. I think, tell me a little bit about the brand size. I know it's pretty large, but tell me a little bit more about where you are right now across the country and where that's headed.
Sure. So Teriyaki Madness, we actually started in 2003, and it was started by two brothers and a cousin who lived in Las Vegas, and they went to school in Seattle. And in Seattle, Teriyaki's on every corner. So it's like Chicago hot dogs, New York pizza. Right. Long story short, they started their own in Las Vegas in 2003. And then Michael, who's our CEO, bought the company in 2016. So I started in 2016. So even though we were around for a while, we were very much like a startup, being new ownership and kind of different direction, different vision. And so it was a blank slate for me. We didn't have anything. We didn't have online ordering. We didn't have gift cards. We didn't have an app. We pretty much had a counter and a telephone to take orders, and that was about it. So it's been a fun ride. When I started, I think we had about 30 locations, and we're about 145 now, plus two in Mexico and two in Canada. And then we're expanding actually into Central America in El Salvador and all over there too. So it's been pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. That's great. International is an exciting step as well. But tell me a little bit about the Asian fast casual model. I know you said it kind of stems from the Seattle tradition, which is cool. I didn't realize that. But it's also a pretty profitable model for restaurants. And obviously, how does that affect your marketing when you approach on the franchise development side? How do you kind of incorporate the model and what's unique about it, I guess?
Well, what's great is Asian food in general is one of the fastest growing segments in the restaurant industry. It's a little bit healthier. We're not claiming to be a health food brand by any means. We're flavor first, but it's great that teriyaki just by nature is grilled and fresh meats and veggies. So it happens to be healthier, and most of our sauces are gluten-free. So the fact that it is healthy and simple, like we pride ourselves on a pretty simple menu. We want to make our core products and make them really well. And so I've been at many brands over the years where we have thousands of SKUs, and I think we have less than 80 in our system. And it's probably even fewer than that. So, doing what we do and do it well, that's our model. And it's pretty economical when you look at, the core products that we serve.
Yeah. And that's all about how do you get to 145, right? And growing and adding at a greater rate, even at times. And I know brands, they kind of pick and choose when to, grow, and feel like you guys are probably in that growth mode. But it comes with the assurance, or you guys care a lot about obviously the previous owners all doing well, and that's all part of the expansion. So you have to, I heard, keep it simple, right?
Yeah.
By the nature of what you're doing is simpler, and allows you to help others get into the business successfully and focus on probably what they want, which is relationships, right?
Yeah.
And having people coming back. And I was just talking with a brand recently. It was like all about that. It was about, you don't realize how many times they're coming in. I mean, if it's something like that, it might be several times a month. And it's like you get to know these folks. So you can focus on that, keep it a simple operation. So that's attractive. Tell me a little bit about, though, the overall job of a CMO at a brand like yours. You obviously have two sides of the marketing. One is, you want to offer the opportunity to become part of the brand and run your own business in a particular location. You have that side of it. And then you have the side of supporting the brand and the actual locations that are there now. Tell me about the brand side of the marketing. I know you've got some innovations coming and different things you wanted to share. Can you tell me a little bit about how do you back up strategically and say, we need each franchisee to achieve success? And how does that look from a marketing standpoint? Like, how do you do that? Is there a core set of marketing plans that everybody gets? And how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, we have built this brand in a fairly organic way. We're not backed by big investors. We have only grown as fast as our ad fund contribution has allowed, and the fees for buying a new franchise. So it's a really smart way to grow, because we're not getting ahead of our skis, as we say here in Colorado. And we've only been able to do what we can afford to do, which has really pushed us to be very scrappy. I think it's forced our shop owners to be really involved in their communities, which is one of our core values anyway. And our shop owners do want to be involved, not only in the community of our franchisees here. We're very collaborative. We share ideas, but in their own communities where their shops are located. So some of our best marketing programs have been good old-fashioned grassroots efforts, having fundraisers and having the community come into the shop, or tasting the food, bringing food to different businesses and people around town. Because one thing that we've learned over the years is there are some people who don't really understand what teriyaki is. And our food is so good that when you taste it, you go, oh, this is teriyaki. Okay, I get it. And then they come in after. So, what's interesting too is, as a marketer, it used to be pretty black and white what marketing did versus what someone in the IT department would do, and now it's pretty muddy. I mean, we marketers are IT people as well, and we know technology now that sits kind of in the marketing department that never would have in the past.
Right.
Yeah. So it's been
no doubt.
It's been interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting journey, especially for us. I'd say us, meaning we've been around a little while. We've seen the evolution of the internet. And now with AI coming into the mix, it's interesting. That's a whole nother topic. But I wanted you to talk a little bit. You said earlier when you first started, there were no rewards programs. There were no engagement programs. I'm thinking of ways to reward people for spending more of their time with you and making them important to the brand. And I know that the relationships you talked about, you mentioned earlier, partnering with the community, right? Interacting with other businesses, organic growth that way is still and probably one of the smartest ways to grow a thriving business, because it isn't so dependent on one channel or another, or, hey, Facebook decided to change something and now my campaign doesn't work as well as it used to. And, it's always that problem with some of the digital channels of constant change, but really the idea of relationships will never change, right? And people want to buy from local businesses that they feel connected to and know about. So it sounds like you do that and you equip the franchisees to do that well. And then you've got the other technology to support that. So I think of engagement like whether it's a mobile app or rewards programs or other ways of making it convenient to interact more and buy more and do more. How have you addressed that? So it's kind of an extension of the relationship that you're building
Yeah.
organically, locally. How have you used digital to address that engagement
Yeah.
stuff?
Well, one of the first things I did about 7 years ago is we created our app and online ordering. And this was pre-COVID. So at the time, it was kind of iffy if restaurant brands needed an app. Definitely needed online ordering. Apps were kind of on the way out almost back in 2016, 17. We're pretty thankful that we decided to do it because it really set us up well for during the pandemic. We didn't have to pivot too much. We were already set. So we have focused our technology on ways to make it easier for customers to order food and faster to get it in their hands. And so all of our technology is integrated together. That's another big piece of it. Working with a franchise system, you don't want to have the owners have to go to 4, 5, 6 different platforms to operate. Ours are integrated together. So working with Punch and Olo and all these different companies so that it's really they're going to one place. Integrating third-party delivery was a huge piece for us. And then our loyalty program. The whole purpose of having loyalty is to get people to come in more often, get them to spend more money. And now that we've had our program for 4 or 5 years, we know that our loyalty guests are spending about 12% more than non-loyalty guests. So that's why it's been so important to us, not only to have these good relationships, within the communities, but then be able to talk to those customers constantly, throughout the weeks and months as a reminder, because people get busy, they forget everything, who's out there and where they want to go. And so we've been able to grow that database. When I started, I think we had 12,000 people in just a simple email database. And now we have almost 650,000 reward members. And what's so great is those are people who want to hear from us. Like they have signed up themselves. They want to hear from us. And it's a pretty captive audience.
Yeah. Brilliant. You should get a raise. Yeah. You should get a raise. Good job.
That's
good
recorded,
job.
Right?
That's recorded. We got the evidence. No, but I mean that's what marketers are supposed to be doing, right? Building an audience, building an engaged list. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how that must be so valuable for you right now to be at that. So tell me a little bit about that, because now you do have a bigger sort of national audience, if you will. And I know you've done things like innovative things like Teriyaki Madness, National Chicken Teriyaki Day, or you guys invented it, or I don't know. So tell me about like when you do national promotions, tell me a little how that gets weaved in, and are you using this big database for some of that? And I suppose you are, but tell me a little bit how that works.
Okay, so crazy enough, National Chicken Teriyaki Day is not something we created, but we are certainly celebrating the heck out of it. So we discovered it just about 1.5 years ago. We're like, oh my gosh, this holiday is out there, and there's a lot of crazy holidays. So last year we just kind of dipped our toe in the water. We weren't sure what the reaction would be. Last year it's on December 11th. And so last year was on a Sunday. This year it was on a Monday. So this year we decided to go big. We know because, like I said, our loyalty guests are spending more than non-loyalty guests. So our intent of celebrating this holiday not only is to create business on a slower day of the week on a Monday this year, but to gain as many Mad Rewards members as possible, because we know that they're a captive audience and they're going to spend more and come in more often. So we used our social media ads to promote it. We had in-shop POP. We had bag stuffers. We started promoting it several months in advance. And it turned out to be the biggest day in Teriyaki Madness history as far as sales, as far as engagement with the app. Same-store sales were up 43% that day. It was a big day for us, which was great. But the best part is we've seen kind of the residual benefits from it. So we gained several thousand new Mad Rewards members. It helped us kind of hurdle over our year goal And I think we were about, what was it, 154,000 new members this year, and our goal was 140,000 members. So it definitely helped us get beyond across the line, which was the entire purpose of it. So
I
yeah, it
love
was a
it. I
good
love
day.
it. You're doing all the right things and you got the KPIs to drive towards the right things. So
Yeah.
that's a smart thing to be doing. So cool. So you do the promotion. So is there anything else like that that you think could make a huge impact like that from a sort of an event based marketing idea? Or do you have more planned for this year, like at different points of the year? Obviously, you do holidays and you do different things, but is
Yep.
there other key events that you find that really help you drive things?
Yeah. Because we're constantly trying to drive people to our app, another one that we focus on is free delivery. Early on, I think a lot of brands, especially during the pandemic, a lot of brands were just giving free delivery out for a long time, for months at a time. We decided not to do that. We're trying to be a little more strategic with the way that we use it. And so we have different free delivery weeks. We'll just do a week here, a week there. But last summer we did free delivery Tuesdays. And Mondays and Tuesdays are typically a little bit slower in sales than the rest of the week. And so we wanted to use it as a way to boost sales on Tuesdays. But again, it was only something that you can get through the app or online. And so creating those rewards accounts is really the ultimate goal, to get those people in for long term.
Right.
So we ended up doing it every Tuesday through the summer. We were able to promote it consistently, in all of our different channels. And it ended up being we partnered with DoorDash on that one. And it ended up being one of DoorDash's biggest promotions for any of their brands. And, we're a growing brand, but we're only
Yeah.
145 locations.
Yeah.
And they work with some
Right.
pretty big brands. So it was pretty great. It was very successful. It was a good summer.
We'll send this interview to your boss for sure.
Great.
Uh,
Perfect.
like I couldn't. I think you're checking all the boxes I would certainly want to check if I were doing your job. So you're doing great. Now this is good information too. I mean, I think that's smart. I mean, you're thinking about events on down days. You're also tying that action to the longer term engagement. So once they're part of the rewards program, you kind of know now they're in for the increase in spend. And so tell me a little bit about when you implement something like this and it's more technological. Okay, so we're talking about relationship building, the guerrilla marketing that happens for the franchisee, the local market, interacting with the community, things like that. But as you're building up your relationships and your audience, now you've got things like digital technology and the app and things like that. Is there something you have to balance out when you launch things like that with the brand or the values of the brand or what you're trying to convey to your customers? Like, what are you guys about? What environment do you want to create? Sometimes
Yeah.
technology can get in the way of what you're doing. I'm just wondering, did you have to balance anything, or how do you look at that? Keeping the relationships at the right level, I guess, when you start to use more automated technologies and things like that. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's two ways to balance. One is the balance of programs that we run. We're constantly trying to look at things that have very little training for the shop side. So, because labor is still a challenge, and there's, a lot of turnover, we don't want programs where we're relying 100% on, hourly employees to run them. So we're trying to take a lot of this out of their hands and, make a little higher level. As far as, communicating to customers, we're pretty strategic with the way that we coupon. And I've always said, we never want to be like Bed Bath and Beyond. And I said that years before Bed Bath and Beyond had some big issues recently. So
Right, right.
I don't want the coupon crack, I call it. I don't want customers waiting for the next offer to come in. And so we try to convey, really our brand attributes and, again, the flavor kind of rules all. So once people taste it,
Right.
it's really craveable and addictive. And so
Yeah.
if we can get the food in their mouths, so they get it. But for new customers, I mean, we're small enough that really our marketing needs to be about reach and reaching new people to come in, because we have a lot of really loyal guests, for people who already know us. we're trying to get the
Yes.
word out to additional guests to come in.
Right. Yeah, interesting challenge there. But that's a great answer. I mean, that is a thoughtful answer about the comparison with other brands like you made that, we're not that. And we don't want the marketing to change who we are, what people think of when they think of us. So we talked a little ahead of time about technology and things. You mentioned it earlier about marketing sort of fusing with tech, more tech, right? We're more tech people, I think.
Yes.
And so, like with the future, we know about AI. AI made a huge sort of breakthrough last year in terms of everybody being aware of it, people using different forms of it now more directly, I should say. It's always been in the background. It's been around a little while with a lot of these technologies that we use every day, like Facebook and Google. But in terms of someone actually using it and having it do something for them that helps them with their daily life, that happened last year. So as you look forward, what are you thinking about as both on an innovation standpoint and also your marketing team, just looking at the marketing department? How do you see AI kind of evolving and shaping these things for you in the future?
Yeah, so it's a good day that we're talking because just today we are launching a new program that we've been testing. We tested it throughout 2023, but it's called Mad Dash, and it's basically our solution to a drive-through. So our food is made to order and it's fresh, and it probably won't lend well to a drive-through model because we make it when you order it. However, we needed a solution for that and for the convenience factor, and so. We now have, we work with a company called Flyby, and we've integrated their technology into our app with Punch and Olo that basically tracks customers. So when you place an order for pickup, curbside, it's even doing tracking delivery drivers. But when they place their order, it's alerting the shop through GPS tracking. So not even geofencing, it's more precise through, GPS on their phone. And it's alerting the shop when they're just a couple minutes away, and then it alerts them again when they're about 15 seconds from parking. So when they kind of cross into the parking lot, and our goal is to literally be standing outside holding their bag, and so they don't even have to park. They pull right up to the curb. We chuck the food in their car, maybe hand it to them, and then they're on their way. If you have a 15-second transaction, that's a game changer. That's gonna really change our business and help us stand out, even from those who are moving towards, the convenience of drive-throughs. Hopefully, we're going to be even faster than that.
Yeah, and it's not, I think it's the idea of what you said earlier that you solved that for people that love the food hot, right? Most likely,
Yeah.
if you get, and so like you're like, even if you had the drive, do you have a drive through now at all? I mean, I don't know if you do.
We have a couple because they were previously restaurants that had them, and so we've incorporated them. But more so, we have a couple with pickup windows, so not necessarily where you drive up and order, but where you can stop by and pick it up.
Got you. What I'm saying is, you're solving the problem that the customer would have wanted you to solve. It's like I want my food fresh and hot, but I would love to have it convenient. But the fresh and hot's more important. So now you've just created it so that it's easier for me to buy from you more.
Yep.
So I just, you know what I mean? Which again is the
all about
focus.
convenience.
Right. So, but the quality of food is part of who you are as a brand, right? It's somewhat healthy because of the way it's prepared and the ingredients, and the fact that it is fresh and made that way is timely. So you got to do what you did to sort of give you the convenience and the freshness and hot part as well. So that's pretty cool. And that's not you found tech to solve that. Satellite tech. So tell me a little bit about, so again with AI, thinking about these ways of creating content now, and I don't know, it's changing every day, obviously, but as a marketing department, what are you thinking about in terms of content creation and just, are you encouraging your team to use certain tools, or how are you approaching it, I guess?
Yeah. So, we have a relatively small team. And like I was saying before, because we've grown in a smart way where we're not backed by, huge investors, and where a lot of brands, are just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. We need to be scrappier, and also I think a little more focused on data and doing actually, what works. And so one of the things that has worked really well for us is social media. And partially it's because of our brand voice and our personality, where our brand is a little edgier and irreverent and fun. We always say we take our food seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously. And that lends well to social. But a couple things with the technology, writing in that brand voice is tough. We always say our brand personality is kind of a mix between Bill Murray and Ryan Reynolds. And those guys are,
Okay, I
they're
like those
clever
guys.
and funny. Yeah, it kind of gives you a glimpse of who we are. But now that, Chat GPT exists, it's pretty interesting to be able to work with that almost as a copywriter in some of the things that we're doing. And, we can come up with the great direction, and it will actually write something in the brand voice of Bill Murray or Ryan Reynolds. It's pretty unique.
Pretty unique.
So we're using that type of technology, kind of as needed. We also, because responding to reviews is so important, through Google, and they put so much weight on that as far as, who they're going to show in their search results. Reviews is a big piece of that. And so we have the technology through a platform where our franchisees can get on. It aggregates all the reviews in one place. And we have provided through Chat GPT and some other AI tools responses. And so it's responses written, it's nothing that we wouldn't want to say, but it's written in a fun, quirky way that fits our brand personality. And it allows, again, ease of use. It allows our franchisees to respond to any kind of review, positive, negative, or neutral, really quickly, which is key.
Yeah. That's brilliant. No, I mean, I'm spending a lot of time in that field, and I've always been attracted to new technology anyway. And one of the things I've been saying for about a year is, what can it do to help you move the needle somewhere in your business? And you have to have a very good understanding of what that is. And you've been saying the whole conversation, whether it's KPIs or the data, or where do we need to close the gap? What problem could we solve? And it's like you said, well, writing in the tone of like a Bill Murray would be pretty much impossible unless you're a master writer and you could literally take the time to try to figure that out. Literally, if that's what you feel your brand is, you could literally have AI do that for you. But that's a great application of using AI to move what you're already doing forward. And that's the key. And I think that's where brands need to jump in today, like you're doing, and do it. So that, kudos for you, because that'll just keep happening. Like, oh, we could maybe do that. And oh, we could maybe do this and whatever. And it'll evolve. But that's a great use case idea. Is your brand, like an AI probably could be that brand better than anybody really, just because it's consistency if you train it properly, and you know what I mean? So anyway, that's really cool. So just in terms of before I let you go, I wanted to kind of go back over. So everything you've talked about should frame this opportunity as a great one for anyone listening. Tell me a little bit about, if someone was interested in starting their own operation. Tell me a little bit about what markets you're focused on, and a little bit about how that influences your marketing. What is it about your brand that you're trying to match when you're going through that recruiting process? Who are you looking for?
Yeah.
To kind of take the brand further. But how does that affect your marketing efforts there?
Well, we're pretty unique, I think, in the franchising world. And like I said, I've been at several large franchisors, and we're pretty unique in that we provide extreme support. So we have support from, the real estate design and construction, through marketing, through everything. And so we're willing to take on people who don't have restaurant experience, and some don't even have business experience. As long as they are coachable and willing to work with us and collaborative and can follow a process, we've been able to work with a lot of people to realize their dreams of owning their own business, as long as they can follow a process. So we're pretty unique in that way. And then we have several franchisees who do have a ton of experience. And so we'll kind of tailor our support to them. There's some who don't want or don't need as much support. So we're really looking for the people, though. It's to make sure that, we have a good match in personalities. This is a 10-year plus relationship, 10 years at a time. And so we want to make sure that they're coachable and willing to learn and open to new ideas. And we are too. And so we learn just as much from a lot of our shops, hopefully, that they do from us. And I think that's really helped us succeed over the last 7 to 10 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, just as we wrap up, I do respect everything you've been talking about, and I know that you've got a clear vision of what you need to do to move the brand in the right direction. So, if you were giving advice to another CMO, that was just starting with a brand, maybe your size, maybe a little bigger, there's a lot going on in the world today. There's a lot going on with technology. There's a lot just in general. So, with the demands of a CMO today, what would your advice be? Where would you start? Like if you were starting a gig new with a new brand, and is there any advice you might share?
I would say because we were forced to be very scrappy, we were forced to prioritize. And I guess an easy place to start, or to me, a kind of no-brainer, is to fish where the fish are. And so starting with our current customers and getting a current customer to return is a lot less expensive and a lot less effort than it is to get new customers in the door. And if we can prove ourselves over and over to our current guests, even if we couldn't do outside marketing, which we are doing, but if we couldn't, our current guests should be able to help grow the brand through, word of mouth and repeat visits. So I would say fish where the fish are first, and then work on expanding outside that first group of people.
Yeah. I mean, and that makes great sense. And in a restaurant brand, I mean, it is. I mean, if your food is great and you treat your customers great, it's hard not to be good. I mean, you know what I mean? A lot of new franchisors that we talk to, I've done a little of that too with emerging brands. A lot of it comes from that. It's just they're so loved in their market that they're like, are you a franchise? And that's a lot of times how it starts. But anyway, that sounds brilliant. And you're right. It is a much cheaper way to approach it. And it's right in front of you. How do we just make it better, what we're already doing? And that's great advice. I appreciate that. Any other thoughts you wanted to leave with the audience? And if they're interested in, I would say, the opportunity, I'm sure they can Google Teriyaki Madness near them. But if they're interested in the opportunity of partnering with you, what's the best way to reach out for that?
Sure. You can go to TeriyakiMadness.com and then click on franchising to get to our franchise site. And there is a ton of information. Another one of our core values is transparency. And so we're very transparent with all the numbers and everything that's on there and what we do, versus what we expect from the shop owners. And a lot of that's on there. It's a great place to start. It's pretty exciting. And for people who haven't tried the food, I definitely recommend getting in there and trying it, because like I said, that's the number one thing our guests tell us is they love us primarily for the flavor of the food, because it's so unique and craveable. And it's usually something people don't typically make at home. So that's why a lot of people like going with teriyaki. Yeah.
Well, I would say nowadays, none of us, there's so many great choices to get healthy food. That it's hard to be a good cook. Like you can't compete. It's like they've got all the great recipes and ingredients, right? So that's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today. It was really, really cool to talk about technology and where things are going. Love to have you back though. So hopefully, you can come back and visit us in a bit and tell us what's going on, because I know more changes is in front of us, and how we approach running businesses will evolve. And I don't think there's a better place to be than in a franchise network to deal with change. I think that COVID was a great testament to that. And like you said earlier, thank goodness we didn't have to quote unquote pivot, right? I think they invented that word. They brought that out of the dictionary and said, let's use pivot a lot. We all had to pivot constantly. But no, I'm glad to hear that. And a lot of people did pivot and it was a lot of innovation through it. I thought it was cool. And I also think you made some comments about being scrappy, and I think that's awesome. I mean, one thing that this environment forces us to do is be innovative. And I haven't heard anyone ever tell me that's a great entrepreneur that's the only way through is to think
Yep.
through it with limited resource and figure it out. And you will. And you hear story after story of people saying that's impossible. We can't do that. And it gets done. So you just have to have clarity, right? Clarity of
Yes.
your vision. Anyway, thank you so much, Jodi
Thanks,
Boyce.
Rob.
It's been a pleasure to have you on the
Yeah,
show.
thank you very much.